We are set now for the second heat of the D-Hydro Finals, the 1992 APBA Stock Outboard Nationals. The boats are coming around the turn and heading into the chute for the start. In the first heat, Jim Sweeney in boat 8S out of Columbus, Ohio, was the winner unofficially. Mike Schlewa came in second. Mike's out of Tacoma, and Fred Howenstein of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, was in third. They're now heading into the chute, and the boat that will take the lead will be 43W. That is Jeff Hutchins of Menasha, Wisconsin. Jeff finished fourth in heat number one.
Never to be counted out is Jeff Hutchins. He's a 25 or 30-year veteran starting way back in the early 60s and has been a national champion several times in different classes. So Jeff, one of the really premier small hydroplane drivers over the years.
That's the voice of APBA Racer and our color man for the day, Mike Motherway. I'm Dave Danis. Glad you can be with us here on Sunday Lake in Wakefield, Michigan, as the boats come around the first turn and head toward the backstretch.
These are the kings of stock outboard racing, the 85 to 90 mile an hour, 45 cubic inch mercury powered D-hydroplanes. And someone coming up like a rocket on the inside, looking to overhaul Hutchins right there. It's Stan Armstrong out of Wisconsin in the 91W, I believe. I think that's the 91W that has just grabbed the lead away from Jeff Hutchins going into corner number 2.
Stan finished fifth in the first heat. He's now leading, going around corner number 2, heading into the front stretch. Stan Armstrong is the leader in heat number 2 from Heartland, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee. There you see Stan out in front as he comes up the front stretch.
Now they're completing the first of 3 laps. This is the second heat for the national championship. It is in fact Stan Armstrong, but watch Sweeney in the 8S, who's moving up to challenge for second now. He had terrific speed here during qualifying earlier, and Sweeney, in fact, Sweeney is the defending national champion, and he seemed to be closing on second place, and there's still time for Sweeney to take a run at Stan the Man Armstrong.
Jim Sweeney is the leader after one heat, unofficially going around the second turn.
What a beautiful sight of those big D's throw those rooster tails as they trim out now to head down the back straightaway on lap number 2, and it's still Stanley Armstrong, but it does look like the gap is narrowing.
That is Sweeney in second place. Jim Sweeney trying to pick up the number of the boat in third coming down the backstretch. Unable to pick
Sweeney
that
now
one up.
closing in that lumpy water as they go into corner number 2. Sweeney is a very good rough water driver, and for that matter, so is Stan Armstrong. But Sweeney did inch a little bit closer in turn 2. Whoa, and Sweeney lets it slip a little wide. He just crossed Armstrong's wake, and that could cost him a boat length or so. 1 lap to go, the white flag for Stanley Armstrong. Here's Sweeney on the outside, about a second or so behind him. Brett Howenstein now moving past Hooten into 4th position. And those 2 racers are battling going into corner 1 on this, the last lap. These short 3-lap sprints don't give you much chance to make a mistake.
Well, I tell you, Mike, we've had a bit of delay due to wind conditions, and these boats have come back on the lake after about a 2-hour delay, and they've got it cranked up and wide open right away.
Yeah, they're really moving very well. The wind has died substantially. The water conditions are almost ideal now, enough to keep the boats up and riding on top of the water, yet not enough to be too treacherous. And oh, look at Sweeney. He has picked up a couple of tenths again through corner number 1. He may have just run out of laps here due to a very poor, or at least mediocre, start. Armstrong, right in the fray from the beginning, came from 3rd to 1st on the back straightaway of lap number 1 and has held on so far. Here they come out of the last turn now, heading for home, David. Pick them up. It's still Armstrong.
It's Armstrong in first. He finished 5th in the first heat. Meanwhile, Sweeney finished first, so if Sweeney can keep his boat in the water, he's in pretty good shape. As they come down the home stretch, it will be Stan Armstrong taking the second heat stand from Heartland, Wisconsin, followed by Jim Sweeney, the third. And Mike, for Jim Sweeney, that should wrap up his championship if everything checks out in inspection.
Right, and who just passed Howenstein again from 5th position.
There you see boat number 121. That's Mike Schlewa of Tacoma, Washington. He was the second finisher in the first heat, as we await the official results of heat number 2 of the D-Stock Hydros.
Well, Jim Sweeney looks like he's just garnered himself a national championship, and I believe he has won Well, he is a defending champion. He was last year's champion, so that gives us another repeat champion. We've had a couple of them today. We've had 2 new champions and a couple of repeaters. So Sweeney, who did not have to qualify, had an assured spot in the finals and has certainly kept his championship form, eh, David?
We'll go to our replay, taking a look at the stretch run, as you will see Stan Armstrong take the lead and hang on to it around that final corner, holding off Jim Sweeney. And there's Armstrong in cruise control heading into the finish line, and then Sweeney finishing in second place, good enough to capture the overall for the 2-heat D Stock Hydro finals. Now the boats head into that ever-important inspection area, and this is a key because we still have boats that came out of the water before we went on windbreak. That inspection has not been finished on. You mentioned earlier that you bring your engine in and it comes home in a box.
That's right. They check every component of the engine. From some of the races that were held 3 and 4 hours ago, we still don't have final results on all the classes pending inspection, as the motors are disassembled, and some of the factory technicians and other trained inspectors in the American Powerboat Association go over every single part and measurement in the motor to make sure they're in compliance. That compliance being that the power heads themselves are absolutely stock.
What are some of the more common infractions that inspectors will find?
Well, without being too esoteric, the primary one that I've seen over the years, and there's Sweeney getting a big hug as he comes in from boat builder Lee Fernal, who Sweeney drives a Fernal Flyer, I believe, and Lee's pretty happy. What happens, reed stops. That's the fuel metering system in this type of motor. Reed stops can be set and tinkered with, and they must be within 1/1000th of an inch, plus or minus, of where the factory set them. And that seems to be the stumbling block so far, reed stops that were out of compliance.
And as you mentioned now, where the factory set them, that is the difference between the stocks and the modifieds.
Right. In modified, you can play with the reed stops, you can play with several of the components in the engine, but in the stock classes, and you have to leave everything just as it comes in the box.
So there you take a look at it as our winner heads toward inspection. We'll take a timeout and be back with more racing action right after this.